Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Good evening. Welcome back or welcome to our day 2 of our 4th annual TEDx conference here at ASIJ. My name is Sion Kwan, a current junior at the American School in Japan and the organizer for this year's TEDx event. Yesterday, day 1 of our TEDx 2021 conference, we heard from 4 of our 8 speakers. First, Naomi and Adam shared their own perspectives upon their struggles with body image and health. Julie then highlighted her life-changing decision of not attending college, specifically noting the importance of letting go of the fear of judgment. Maureen lastly talked of her self-published book on empathy and the meaning beyond it. We were also welcomed with 2 special intermission performances, an aspiring solo artist and producer, Dizon or Will Herbert, and an art exhibition from Claire Kim, one of our seniors. However, that was only the first day of our event, and we are more than excited to share our second day of the event with new talks and performances. Today we'll be hearing from the last 4 of our speakers sharing a whole new dimension on the theme Reflections, starting from ourselves. Similar to yesterday, we will have 2 short intermission between the talks featuring passion projects from various student voices at ASIJ community. I sincerely hope that you can all sit back and enjoy the second and last day of our event while taking some time to also reflect individually. So, without further ado, let's welcome Reflections, starting from ourselves.
To begin our second day of events, we will be first hearing from Connor Takehana, who will be sharing his story on how to make change, starting from targeting our own habits.
There was a slave in ancient Greece, whose master once beat him so badly that he limped for the rest of his life. His name was Epictetus. As a way of coping with his cruelty, he developed an interest in philosophy. He eventually gained his freedom, but even after being set free, he continued to live a simple life. It tells you something about Epictetus, that he didn't pursue riches or status. He kept living the same modest life as a free man. Why? Because he believed it wasn't what you had, but how you lived that determined if your life was good or not. Specifically, he believed that a person's habits are the most important part of our lives. But why? Why are habits so important to our lives? Well, here's an interesting finding. In 2019, a team of Australian researchers found that your subconscious brain made your decisions 11 seconds before your conscious brain had become aware that you had. Let me explain. Imagine you have 2 buttons in front of you, and you are told to choose one of them. After some time of thinking, you choose and press one of the buttons. The researchers found that your subconscious brain had already made up that decision to choose that button 11 seconds before you consciously declared that decision. This means that if I were to travel back in time 11 seconds before you declared and took a scan of your brain, I would be able to tell you which button you would end up choosing with 100% certainty. Or here's another example. Let's say you just got out of bed and you're contemplating whether or not to go for a run. After some time of thinking, you choose not to. Yet, once again, if I were to scan your brain 11 seconds before you consciously declared that decision, I would have already known what you would have chosen. Well, what does this mean? This shows that it isn't actually you that is controlling your decisions. Well, if we aren't the ones at the steering wheel, who is? Simply put, it's your habits. Habits cemented into memory of years of repetition guide your subconscious to make your actions. At the end of the day, control is just an illusion which follows decisions made by your subconscious. Epictetus was ahead of his time. He understood this. He in fact argued that if you don't have good habits, in essence, you aren't living a good life. He distilled his ideas into a simple conception of what's good and what's evil. Our good habits are the ones that we must strive to maintain, the ones that are carried out wisely. The evil ones? Well, they're the opposite, the ones which do not benefit you or the ones around you. Epictetus managed to connect how we live with how our brains worked even before we had the technology to map out the brain or subconscious. Yet, what then if you have bad habits? Are you destined to live a terrible life in which you cannot control? Well, not to worry. Epictetus understood another revolutionary concept, that these habits can be changed. In fact, he argued that these habits can be changed in just 30 days. 30 days. That's all you need to reshape your subconscious, the true decision maker, into whatever you want. You have the power to completely flip your life over 180 degrees by simply committing to better habits for 30 days. But surely, it can't be that easy. There must be a catch. And there is. You have to commit. But that's it. So for 30 days, I dedicated myself to creating habits that would flip my life over. I developed a battery of good habits. Go to bed early, wake up early, finish my homework 2 days in advance, work out every day, and practice gratitude. I completely dedicated myself to forming these habits, and surprisingly, as Epictetus said, it worked. As these commitments turned into habits, as they were normalized, I stopped calling them tasks. I stopped calling them anything. They simply became part of how I live my life, part of a happier, more productive life. And in truth, I felt unstoppable. I was on top of my own world, my own life. As new opportunities to improve came to mind, I would simply dedicate myself to it for 30 days, and I added another habit to my subconscious. I thought I had officially figured out how to beat life. But as these actions started to become habits, as they were normalized, a slight emptiness started to come upon me. I managed to shape my life into what I viewed as perfect, but I wasn't fulfilled. I know what you're thinking. How could I possibly not be fulfilled? Well, firstly, it wasn't always sunshine and rainbow. There will always be things in life that knock you down, which you cannot control, and these events will try to stop you from cementing your good habits in. But also, I realized at the end of the day, I was being selfish. I was enhancing my own life. But what was the point in bettering yourself if I couldn't use it for something useful? Unless I was impacting something greater than myself, something beyond me, it was useless. So, with this new mindset intact, I had to decide what I was going to focus on. For me, it was a simple choice. Environmentalism. The idea that every day the world burns and yet no one does anything partly scares, but even more makes me wonder. You see, I created personal habits that made sure I was being the most environmentally friendly I had ever been. I made myself become aware of every trace of plastic near me. I bought the bare minimum of plastic and turned to supporting local markets, reducing my carbon footprint. What I realized was that grand-scale problems like climate change aren't out of the reach of us common people. It's not just the responsibility of governments or large NGOs to solve. It's ours. We, together, through collective habits, can solve climate change. In just 30 days, we all can reshape our habits into ones that don't destroy the earth, but save it. You see, Epictetus once said, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? In other words, how long will you keep expecting the world to improve, but do nothing to improve it?" To you, I extend an opportunity right now to change, to improve. So I ask you, what issue do you genuinely care about? Now, what habit in your life can you change to help contribute to solving that issue? Think about it and commit to it, because in 30 days, you will have made a true impact. This is what I want you to take away. Not that you should only better your life, but should better the world around you. Through habits, we can change the world in just 30 days. Habits control our lives, and through habits, we control our future. These habits can be changed in just 30 days. 30 days. That's all it takes for us to change the world. All it takes to be the Epictetuses of our time.
Thank you, Connor, for your story. 30 days. It's such a short period of time, yet has the potential to create a lifelong habit. I myself will definitely be thinking about what habits I can change or develop as I go about my daily tasks. And I hope everyone listening can do the same. Now, let me introduce you to our next speaker, TEDxYouth, who will be discussing how playing music has allowed her to express and open herself up to other people.
A couple months ago, I took a personality test for the first time, and my results said that I was 93% introverted. This is a high percentage, but it did not surprise me because I usually have a hard time talking with people naturally. I am often hesitant to start a conversation or raise my hand in class. I have been told, "Why are you so quiet?" And others will say, "You can talk," when I contribute to the conversation. But I am not alone out there. The Myers-Briggs personality test states that 56.8% of people are introverted. An introvert is a quiet, reserved person who prefers to spend their time alone. An introverted person feels exhausted after social engagements and needs time alone to recharge. In our society today, there is a lot of social pressure to interact with many people and promote oneself to others. So-called socializing and networking are considered important. But more than 50% of people have a hard time doing this or just don't enjoy it. Let's think about socializing and communicating. What was the first thing that came to your mind? Most people think of communication by having conversations with other people. Having good communication skills and being a competent communicator is certainly one of the main ways to successfully connect with others. However, being a good verbal communicator is not the only way to connect to others and actively promote oneself. The way I feel most comfortable is through music. I started playing the cello when I was 5 years old, and it has been with me since then. As I grew up, I changed my cello from the quarter size to the half size, and finally the full size. Since I was young, I was very shy, so I did not enjoy playing the cello in front of other people. Despite my shyness, my parents encouraged me to attend cello concerts, camps, competitions, and congresses. 2 years ago, I attended a performing arts summer program. I had previously been to other summer camps, but I was more nervous than usual because I was going to be in a new environment for 6 weeks, longer than I had ever been from home. At the time, 6 weeks felt like such a long time because I was just so scared. What I was most scared about was if I would be able to make friends or even have a good time. But when I got there and people started talking to each other, I was surprised to find out that we had so many commonalities and the same passions. The relationship started from a common theme, the performing arts, whether it be dance, music, art, or theater. This encouraged me to join conversations with people I had just met, which was easier than I had originally thought. The relationships and conversations came naturally to me, and I did not feel awkward with the people there. Moreover, I became an even more active and passionate communicator when I played in the ensembles and orchestras. Even though I played the cello with many others every day, I did not feel exhausted or drained. Quite the contrary, I felt energized even after interacting with others throughout the whole day. There were many people just like me that I could relate to, and I did not feel scared to share my opinions. I felt like almost a different person when I was spending my 6 weeks at the summer program. And I was also surprised that I had just found this new side of myself. For once, I was not forcing myself to be more outgoing. I was interacting with others through my passion. Just a year ago, I got an opportunity to play at a global cello congress at Suntory Hall in Tokyo. This was where people from all around the world came to practice and perform together. Different from the summer program, there were a variety of languages spoken. I heard at least 4 or 5 different languages being spoken regularly throughout the various cellists there. People were also all different ages, from someone as young as me to senior accomplished cellists in their 70s. This made me shy away from other people when they were talking. Even so, I participated in the ensembles because that was how I usually felt the most comfortable interacting with other people. When we started playing the music, I found myself comfortably sharing my ideas with the people around me. Once again, I found this new sense of belonging. Through the music, the language barrier was broken, and it was intriguing to me how connected the people were. Playing the cello with other people was something I enjoyed, because I could create more than just me. And that is what a community looks like. People coming together to create something even better. Of course, my interactions with people should not be limited to music. I should work on applying my newly found self to other interactions with people around me. I realized that being introverted or extroverted is not a single-dimensional concept. A person can be more introverted or extroverted depending on the situation and context. It is perhaps okay and completely normal to feel more confident in our interactions with people in some situations. However, we are not always like that. Also, we can and should discover new sides of ourselves as we mature and grow up. For me, I was able to find the more outgoing side of myself doing something I originally thought was too much of a risk. I realized that I can be an active communicator when it comes to something that I am passionate about. Being introverted is not a bad thing. Most introverts feel the need to be more socially confident to fit in with the standards and expectations of the community. Although some people suggest that social skills are essential for success, forcing yourself to be an extroverted person is not the only option. Instead of feeling inferior and trying to change your personality, perhaps you should find new ways to express yourself to other people. I was able to find new sides of myself by venturing out to new places, people, and experiences. I am sure that each one of you has certain passions that you are willing to share with others. If you have not found something that you love to do yet, I strongly encourage you to open yourself to new experiences. Finding the passion that you can share with others is a way of communication. It is also a great way of overcoming the nervousness to share your ideas that are worth being heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Saya, for allowing us to reflect on what introvert really means. I was truly inspired to hear how music has allowed you to connect with others. You've encouraged me to venture new ways of communication. Next, we will be having a short intermission break featuring Sean Connell Peck's new single, When I'm Talking With You.
There's something on my mind. We lost track of time. It's alright, I'll call you up tonight. In a moment I knew I grew. Reflected on some things from the past. Fixed myself even though you didn't ask. If only you knew how much this means to me. What do we want? Who we wanna be? I can't ignore this feeling. Gotta tell you now the things I wanna say. I feel them every day. I wanna go away, make me wanna stay. It always helps when I'm talking to you. Oh, it's time to figure it out. I just wanna scream and shout out. Maybe just for a day, let's have some fun and play. It always helps when I'm talking to you. It always helps when I'm talking to you. It always helps when I'm talking to you. It always helps when I'm talking to you.
Thank you, Sean, for sharing your self-produced music. We enjoyed your upbeat sound. Now, let's welcome our third speaker, John Wang, who will be talking about the pressures of fitting in and self-identity.
For a second, I'd like you to imagine a boy named Bob. Bob is a junior in high school who's 6 feet 5. Every morning, Bob wakes up at 5 to practice basketball. Because with a height like his, how can he not play the sport? According to his classmates at least. Actually, all Bob wants to do is play soccer instead. Bob also wears Gucci and Balenciagas to school, because all of his friends do, so Bob's worried that his reputation will take a hit if he doesn't. The only thing that's taking a hit right now is his wallet. Finally, even Bob's homework is dictated by others. Even though Bob is good at maths, all he wants to do is study science, but his parents and teachers have pressured him to take only math courses, leaving Bob stressed and unmotivated. Although this is an extreme example, like Bob, so many of our daily actions are dictated by outer expectations. Whether it's playing basketball, clothes, or even classes, we live for others, which is why so many people end up losing their self-identity at some point in life. So what exactly is self-identity? It is in essence the unique beliefs and motivations that define and drive an individual. Each baby starts as a blank slate. They slowly come to discover and accept their identity throughout the years. As you may have noticed, some people seem to feel more comfortable with their identity than others. Take Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for example. He's big, he's strong, and most of all, he's confident. You can tell that he's comfortable in his own skin. But for some, coming to terms with their own identity can be an immense struggle. One of those people was me. The primary reason for this was my introversion. As a child, I was a loser. My lunchtimes would be spent in the sandbox, digging holes instead of playing soccer with others. This loneliness drove me to please others from a very young age in order to feel valued and accepted. To do this, I developed an adaptation of sorts, humor. It seemed like a win-win situation. Whenever I did something awkward, it could be improvised into something funny, right? This worked so well that by kindergarten, I had actual friends. But deep down, there was a nagging feeling that I wasn't good enough, that I was still insignificant compared to the people around me. And it was this fear that I wasn't good enough, in which I lost myself. Over the years, my jokes became increasingly radical. In order to prove myself, I was willing to try anything, even doing and saying outrageous things. By freshman year, I had become a meme, a clown who would voluntarily swallow toothpaste or streak across the field shirtless just to gain some laughs. On the outside, I may have seemed happy, but deep down, I felt lost. Was I being a clown because I personally enjoyed it or because my peers did? The truth is, I had no idea anymore. My search for external validation had consumed me until every second, every minute was dedicated to making others laugh. Like the clown in this picture, I wrestled with personal problems under a facade of happiness. My anxiety skyrocketed. I constantly felt worthless. Somewhere along the line, my struggle for acknowledgement had twisted my very identity. Humor had gone from something to the only thing that defined me. So, what did I learn from this experience? People are difficult. No matter how hard you try to please them, it's never going to seem enough. By constantly investing in this task, my own motivations and desires became blurred. Sometimes putting the effort into relationships just doesn't seem worth it. But in actuality, connections we form with others are the stepping stones to inner fulfillment. According to Erik Erikson, a prominent German psychologist, relationships are the key to developing self-identity. His theory of psychosocial development divides life into 8 stages: infancy, childhood, preschool, and so on. Adolescence is arguably the most important stage due to its overlying challenge, relationships. During this period, it can be tough navigating a growing landscape of people and personal growth. However, finding relatable people can offer unprecedented amounts of support and encouragement. The key is confidence, self-exploration, and ultimately, a lifelong sense of identity. But for those of you who struggle socially like me, life can feel lonely and unfulfilling. This can lead to role confusion, which Erikson describes as insecurity surrounding purpose and motivations, exactly what I had experienced. With both identity and role confusion carrying consequences long past adolescence, Erikson shows the importance in forming relationships. So how can we find both happiness in ourselves and these relationships at the same time? My solution was prioritization, learning to value myself amongst others. This epiphany came in spring of last year, when schools across Japan shut down due to COVID-19. Confined to online learning, I initially felt a strange sense of relief. With nobody else except for my family at home, there was no more pressure to be constantly humorous. I finally felt free. But as the weeks dragged into the month, the toll of isolation began to set in. While a lack of schoolmates alleviated social pressure, it didn't solve my unhappiness. Instead, it led me to realize just how lonely and unremarkable I really was. Nobody contacted me except about schoolwork. My days consisted of classes and sleep. With no true friends or hobbies, my identity continued to fade. Everything seemed gray and dull. Then one day I realized something. If everything I did in life was for outer approval, then maybe the solution was seeking inner approval. This brings us to the first person to prioritize in life, yourself. To do this, I began working on some of my obvious flaws, athletics, procrastination, and so much more. And the more I worked, the better I understood my own strengths and weaknesses. It gave me tangible goals to work towards, boosting my determination and confidence. Although it was exhausting, I could finally sleep easy, knowing that my life had direction now. By prioritizing myself, I found purpose. But of course, it's impossible to attempt everything alone. This brings us to the second group of people to prioritize in life, family. During the COVID lockdown, I realized that the backbone of success were my parents and younger brother. Whenever I finished an intense workout or struggled with an assignment, my parents were always there to help. Even my brother's antics, which used to seem so annoying, energized me when giving up seemed like the easy option. It became apparent that no matter how hard I worked, success was impossible without the help of my family. With this realization, practicing thankfulness became a daily routine. It enabled me to appreciate their help even more, driving me to work harder. By focusing on appreciating my family, I found motivation. Finally, the third group of people to prioritize is friends. It may seem strange that this is placed at the bottom of the list. However, I learned during lockdown that the key to forming successful friendships is developing personal and familiar relationships first. As I worked on developing my own purpose and motivations, I found new interests and goals. This gave me a wider pool of similarities to find in others, making social interactions so much easier. Humor wasn't my only defining trait anymore. I could finally express myself in other ways. During lockdown, my Snap score grew by 100,000. Translated, I found and developed many friendships online. It felt good to have friends who could understand and support my goals. It felt even better to be able to support them back. There was no constant urge to seek external validation anymore. I finally felt free. By developing my own interests and beliefs, I found friends. And by finding friends, I found support. Sometimes we can feel burdened by the pressure to please others. We can lose track of our own beliefs and motivations, leading to confusion and anxiety. Gradually, I learned that the key to fulfillment isn't having the most friends or even being the funniest. No, it's self-care. Even 2,000 years ago, Socrates understood the power of self-care. Why? Because by valuing yourself, we aren't only benefiting ourselves, but others too. It's satisfying to know that my growing skills and abilities aren't only serving myself, but also my friends and family better. It's encouraging to know that through this process, I'm becoming a better person for it. Humor is still a big part of my life, of course, but now it peacefully coexists with my other beliefs and motivations, rather than fighting for dominance. So remember that while other people are crucial in life, you matter too. As human beings, each and every one of us deserve to pursue our own happiness, and it's this self-care that bolsters our sense of identity, helping us form better relationships with others in the process. So take the time to breathe, relax, and think about yourself for once. Like David Icke, a former football player, once said, "The greatest prison we live in is fear of what other people think." Don't let this prison trap you. Live your own life.
Thank you, John, for sharing your story. Everyone, including myself, has most definitely felt social pressures at some point, and your message on the significance of self-acceptance before worrying about judgment resonates within all of us. Last but not least, let me introduce you to our final speaker of the evening, Amy Reeves, who will be discussing the topics of empathy and confrontation.
Many situations test your ability to empathize, some more than others. Imagine your friend asks you, "What do you think of this dress?" One word to describe the dress: funky. It's the weirdest thing you had ever seen. Its off-putting crevices and the way it made your friend look like they were from somewhere other, definitely not somewhere nice, made you want to throw it away, on sight. Basically, Jabba the Hutt if he'd morphed into a dress. They're eagerly waiting for you to respond. You begin to analyze their question and ponder to yourself. A, should you tell them the truth? And B, will it hurt their feelings? You can't be sure of the perfect ratio of truth. In this moment, you become Goldilocks without even knowing it. If you decide yes for A, you are free to lay it out on them. "It looks terrible," you tell your friend. If you decide to consider B, you must bottle up any and all glimmers of sincerity and choose option 2. That's unique. If you choose incorrectly, there's always the possibility that the friend in the dress will take offense. "That was so rude. Why would you say something like that?" To which you'd respond with the fakest smile you can muster. "Abort mission! Abort mission!" You don't want to cause any more damage. Note to self: never attempt that again. In this scenario, it's much easier to consider the other person's thoughts and feelings, especially considering that they are your friend and the stakes are low. However, being empathetic becomes increasingly more difficult as the topic becomes more divisive, such as the heated debate between dogs versus cats. Let me take you on a journey through how I grappled with finding the just right truth level. Growing up, I never liked arguments or confrontation. As someone highly sensitive, the whole ordeal had my anxiety skyrocket and my energy depleted. Most things just weren't worth the effort to fight about. This meant I would avoid arguments at all costs. Option 2, all the way. Smile, laugh it off if necessary, move on, repeat. When I was in kindergarten, the two of my closest and oldest friends fought over me, yanking my short toddler arms with their equally short toddler arms. I later found my kindergarten portfolio, which had big, bold Helvetica letters on it, filled with kindergarten schoolwork. Scribbled next to the printed letters that read, "My best friend is," was the name Julia, which was definitely neither of my friends' names. Even from this young age, I guess I wanted to stay out of conflict. I'm aware that most others are good at confrontation, unlike the younger me. Many are actually on the opposite boat, where they may say things that are slightly disregard the feelings of others in a situation. I think it's only natural that when we're confronted with polar opposite ideas or behaviors we don't understand, we push back on it instantly, especially if we take it personally. Why would they say something like that? Divisive topics like politics was something that often made me think, why do they think that? However, I was always the psychoanalyst kid who would search for the best in people and use my unqualified opinions in psychology to explain people's behaviors. So naturally, I wanted to understand the other side. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to talk about empathy was because of the recent and rampant political division in the US. According to Pew Research Center, those who are extreme on either side of the political spectrum have more than doubled over the past 2 decades, with over 35% of either party going as far as to consider the opposing side as a threat to the nation's well-being. This is no surprise, considering many media outlets are skewed to one political party, and social media's algorithm only furthers people's own ideologies. The space for empathy narrows as mindsets narrow. Divisive topics are the spawning ground for us versus them mentality, and consequently, the decreased willingness to empathize with others.
You know, it's funny. When you look at someone through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags.
Just as wearing rose-colored glasses can distort someone to appear perfect, the same can be said about them versus us mentality. When we wear the lens of them, it's easy to criticize others and perceive our own group as being unable to do any wrong. They are wrong, but we can't be, right? We are a species that craves a sense of belonging, and our natural instinct is to categorize others. On the subject of rose-colored lenses, it is important to note, however, that empathy doesn't mean we give excuses to others. Even something as life-altering as mental illness can only explain behaviors, not excuse them completely. Empathy enables you to understand where someone else is coming from. Therefore, you can take the time to respect them as an individual before discussing your opinions with them. You're no longer arguing, but merely reaching an understanding together and growing. When it feels that energy isn't mutual, it could be beneficial to take a step back and stop engaging. What's really the point of discussing opinions if neither of you is willing to see the other person's side? In other words, empathy makes staying calm and respectful easier. In the context of the dress example, I learned to use the hidden option 3. You turn to your friend and tell them, "I don't think the shape is very flattering, but the color works well with your complexion." It's true your friend may still get upset, but by balancing out criticism and praise while being truthful for both, it allows the comment to be less harsh. Even fair, your friend can now decide on their own, with your input, whether they like the dress or not. This can be said about any divisive topic. A simple, "I definitely think dog is man's best friend, but cats just don't smell bad like dogs do," takes a phrase like "dogs suck" to be much more respectful and therefore also more compelling for the opposition. Dogs suck. would definitely bring about an end to any listening. In this way, option 3 helps me stay fair and objective as humanly possible. However, of course, like any other human, my personal feelings can get the better of me, and I may accidentally use option 1, although I do try to step back when I feel I am not level-headed enough to engage in discussion. Even if others don't take empathy to an extreme, I feel being able to consider others can close the gap between them and us. Hate is prevalent in a world that is hell-bent on continuing to showcase more us's than them's, and is fixated on the minute details that make us different from one another. When we remove the them lenses and the rose-colored us lenses, it becomes clear how distorted our vision had become. Empathy is the lens that illuminates that we as human beings are the us, and that we should respect each other as such.
Thank you, Amy, for that inspiring talk. Through hearing you talk, I think we can all reflect upon the importance of empathy in current society. Furthermore, I think your ideas about hate is prevalent gave me something to really ponder upon after the talk. Lastly, to end our event today, we will have a final intermission by the DARUMA team. DARUMA is ASIJ's literary and visual arts magazine, and the DARUMA team is responsible for selecting manuscripts and visual art pieces, as well as creating the layout for each annual publication. Today we'll be having a special poetry recital featuring one of DARUMA's poets and assembled art pieces that will be shown as well. Let's give a big welcome to the DARUMA team.
Hi, my name is Espi Littlefield, and I'll be reading my poem, An Ode to My Heritage. My sister says I'm in denial about my heritage. I wish I could let that part of myself go. One half of me is sandy hot deserts, loud family dinners, a place where you aren't defined by your name, but by whose daughter you are. A place where bright colors twirl, dance, rather than cry for those long gone. A place where my Americanized nickname is frowned upon, my broken Spanish is politely ignored, my green eyes and long legs marveled at. Christy, she is so skinny, they say. Christy, her hair is so thin, they say. Christy, she is so white. And yes, I don't like Mexican food. And yes, I don't like mariachis. And yes, I don't understand why I'm expected to feel connected if when I try, I feel rejected. My sister is perfect in their eyes. Long, thick hair, brown eyes. Baila, baila esta cumbia. The sounds of Selena drift through my house. Her broken voice comes with it. I shut my door. I don't disdain Mexico, their culture, their craft. I just don't feel a connection. There is no string that pulls the two of us together. No pretty bow decorating the box that is me. Thank you.
Drawing and making art has always been something that I've loved to do and found comfort in ever since as long as I can remember. And I was always drawing people and taking photographs of things around me. So I guess looking back, I think I just gravitated towards working with people and nature. Over the past few years, I've realized how art is a really powerful tool to portray a message or a feeling in ways that words just can't get across. And in my art, I try to emphasize things that are often overlooked in our lives by visualizing those hidden things that I see. I don't know if I have a style, but I like to experiment the materials that I use, or literally conducting experiments by involving other people in the process of the artwork. it's just a lot more exciting when I know that the result is not just my work, but it includes elements of other people, and I think they all come together to produce something much greater. When anyone engages with art, they're reflecting on themselves and they're reflecting on society. I think this is really important because reflecting is how we heal, and it's how we can understand the world better, and it's how we learn and grow as people.
Thank you to DARUMA team. We could really see the dedication and hard work. Let's have another round of applause for our speakers for their remarkable speeches. Your words have truly inspired us all. Now, unfortunately, that was the last speaker for today, but before we conclude our event, Sion Kwan, who has worked tirelessly to organize the TEDx 2021 event, will say a few final words. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Wow, I can't believe that our 4th annual TEDx conference is already coming to an end. Thank you for joining us tonight for our last and final day of our TEDx conference this year. Today we heard from 4 of our fellow students with topics ranging from the rendering of our own habits, self-expression, acceptance before judgment, and the value of empathy and confrontation. Each and every one of our speakers have taken a step back to reflect on themselves and have shared a glimpse of their journey of self-growth and self-realization. Adding on to this, our conference theme, Reflections, holds a distinct meaning and interpretation for every one of us. There is no one single phrase to define this unique process. However, as our 8 speakers emphasized, it is so crucial to cultivate moments in our lives to step back from the greater scope, back to our own selves, to simply reflect, to dig deeper into ourselves, our thoughts, feelings, and actions. As we wrap up our TEDx event, I would like to take a quick moment to acknowledge everyone who was integral to the successful execution of this event, starting with the organizers. Along with me, my co-organizer Ari Lee was a key part of executing this event. Her deep passion for bringing the best of our virtual event and to find ways to incorporate wide-ranging voices worth spreading from our ASIJ community allowed our event to carry on successfully even though made virtual. The marketing team was made up of Sonomi Izushima and Hikari Ueda, who were responsible for all the persistent marketing and promotions as well as our TEDx designs for our posters and our website. The speaker team was made up of Hugo Hasegawa and Nozomi Grimo. Throughout the many months since November, they provided direct support for our 8 speakers, helping them draft and finalize their speeches and slides that you saw today. I'd also like to thank Ravi Jain from our logistics team, who helped coordinate and efficiently organize the logistics and filming behind the scenes of our virtual event. Also a part of our student-led TEDx team, the planning and execution of our event would not have been possible without the work of our 2 amazing ASIJ faculty advisors, Mr. Al-Qadri and Mr. Duncan. In addition, a big thank you goes to the constant support and trust of our ASIJ faculty and administration, especially Dr. Herzenberg, Dr. Augustine, Mr. Nelson, and all the faculty speaker coaches who helped revise and support our speakers. Special thanks to our intermission guest speakers for supporting our TEDx team, along with Neo Kwan for the creation of our TEDx Reflections intro video. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Mr. Dirksey and his ASIJ TV team for being a crucial part in producing and streaming of our event backstage for it to be premiered smoothly. The online event would be trivial without your support and hard work. Most of all, I would like to express my gratitude to all of you for coming today. Along with 8 of our captivating talks, I certainly hope that you are able to pause on the chaos of life and simply take a time to reflect. This process of self-reflection is not an easy thing for many people to do, but you never know how valuable and rewarding this practice is. As Socrates famously said, the unexamined life is not worth living. Thank you everyone, and I hope you have a good rest of your evening.